All right, so today we are going to read a chapter from the book that we've been reading by Beverly Cleary called Ramona's World. We've been reading this for a couple of days now, so we are going to be reading chapter 5. And the concept that we're going to be using today is the reading concept, and it is titled Conflict Brings Complexity. The strategy is think about a point of conflict in the story. Notice if the character asks differently before and after the conflict. Describe the character in a way that shows the character's complexity or different sides of him or her. So we're going to talk about, in this chapter, the actions that Ramona takes and how the actions have consequences and create a more dramatic component to the story. So as we've already learned in this book, Ramona is quite the mischievous little girl. So in this chapter, we will see if the author continues that trend or not. So, chapter 5 is titled The Princess and the Witch. Ramona was impatient to go to Daisy's house again, especially now that Beezus was talking so much about the upcoming party. She liked the kids' big, untidy house with a dog, a cat, and a big brother. She also liked licking juice bars while watching Big Hospital. When the next visit was arranged, Ramona and Daisy ran from the school bus to Daisy's house. Jeremy was already lounging in front of the television set watching an ice hockey game. The girls exchanged looks. "Jeremy, aren't you going to walk Muttley?" Daisy asked, as if the dog were all she had on her mind. On hearing his name, Muttley raised his head, decided Daisy's words were not important, and rested his nose on his paws once more. "Nope," Jeremy was definite, "and no, I'm not going to let you have the TV this time." Oh well, Daisy was used to her big brother. "Come on, Ramona, let's go upstairs to my room and play dress-up." "Nice try," said Jeremy. As the girls climbed the stairs, Ramona could not help thinking that if the Quimby's house had a second story, they would have more bedrooms, and she and Beezus would not always be arguing over whose turn it was to dust the crowded space they now had to share because Roberta had Ramona's old room. Daisy, Ramona could see, was not neat at all. Daisy pulled a carton to the center of her room and began to pull out clothes, satins, velvets, hats with flowers and veils, a long black cape, high-heeled shoes. "Wow," breathed Ramona. "Where'd you get all this?" "Oh, around," said Daisy. "Mom collected most of it for me, because she loved to dress up when she was my age, only she couldn't find much to dress up in." "Nice, Mom," thought Ramona, as she chose a long red dress with a flounce around the bottom and slipped it over her head. Daisy pulled out a long yellow dress trimmed with little things that glittered, but before she poked her head into it, she pulled off her slacks. "Dresses don't look good over pants, and besides, I like the swishy feeling against my legs," she explained. Ramona, deciding she was right, pulled her pants off too. Her dress felt smooth and silky against her bare legs. She snatched up a hat, trimmed with some battered roses, and set it on her head. Then she pulled off her shoes, her nice shoes, and stuck her feet into high-heeled sandals, which made her glamorous, she felt, even if they were too big. "Look, I'm a star!" Ramona lifted her arms as if she were a dancer before she clocked across the room to look at herself in the mirror. "I'm gorgeous," she announced, pretending she had long blonde hair. "I'm beautiful. I'm me, gorgeous, beautiful me. I'm Miss America." Daisy twirled around. "I'm so beautiful, all the other girls in the competition went home." Both girls clonked around, turning and swishing as if they were in a television fashion show. When they both turned their ankles and fell off their shoes, they collapsed on the bed in a fit of giggles. Then Ramona discovered a long pink dress, and because she was already gorgeous and beautiful, decided to promote herself to princess. She quickly changed while Daisy switched from Miss America to a witch in a long black velvet gown and a small green hat with only 3 small holes in the veil. "I'm wicked," cried Daisy. All right, so I'm going to pause there. So it says that Ramona put on a long black dress. Now, in the story, Ramona is a young girl, so she's probably not tall enough for a really long dress. Can anyone tell me what they think might happen to Ramona if she wears a really long dress and proceeds to walk around the room? Yes, she could trip. You are so right. So as we continue to read the story, keep that in mind, of the fact that Ramona is wearing a really long dress. "Great," said Ramona. "I never liked books with nice witches. I'm going to shut the beautiful princess in a dungeon." Daisy made a witch face. "Where are you going to find a dungeon to shut me in?" Ramona was a defiant princess. "That's easy." The Wicked Witch pushed aside the clothes in her closet to reveal a small door, which she opened. Behind it was a dark space under the eaves, which was the attic. All right, who here thinks that this is a good idea in the story? You're right, I don't know. This is Ramona in the story, so we'll see if this is going to be a good point or maybe a turning point in the story. Inside, in the half-light, Ramona saw a few boards laid across the joists to make a place for storing luggage. Beyond, Ramona could see barely the lath and plaster that made the ceilings of the rooms downstairs. "See," cried Daisy, "the wicked witch is going to shut the beautiful princess in the dark dungeon full of rats and feed her bread and water." She grabbed Ramona and pushed her towards the closet within a closet. All right, so they're getting kind of pushy with each other. Now, it said that Ramona saw a few boards laid across the joist to make a place for storing luggage. Do you think that that's really sound and safe for the girls to be up playing in the attic? Yeah, no, doesn't sound safe to me so far. Keep that in mind as we continue to read. "No, she isn't," cried Ramona, twisting away from Daisy. "The princess is going to throw the witch in the dungeon and feed her cold oatmeal." "Yuck," gagged Daisy. She shoved Ramona. Ramona shoved back. One shoe fell off. Daisy pushed harder and shoved Ramona through the little door into the dim space beyond. Ramona, in one shoe, stepped on her pink dress, lost her balance, turned, grabbed at nothing, and stepped off the boards into the lath and plaster. There was an ominous cracking sound beneath her feet. "Oh no!" cried Daisy. Okay, so remember earlier we talked about the fact that the author had mentioned that Ramona put on a long dress. So in this chapter, the author has made hints at maybe kind of some foreshadowing. The fact that she pointed out that Ramona put on a long dress makes you as the reader think, how is this dress going to affect the rest of the story and what's going to happen in the chapter? And as we just read, the dress is what trips Ramona, and it causes a whole effect, and now she heard a cracking underneath her feet. So, anybody have a guess with what's going to happen next? Yes, that is a good guess. I think she's going to fall through the floor. It doesn't sound like it's too safe. "Help!" shouted Ramona as the lath began to break beneath her weight and she found herself sinking. Daisy screamed. The lath made snapping sounds. The pink dress ripped. Ramona heard bits of plaster hitting something below and felt her legs being scratched as the pink dress bunched up around her waist. Her other shoe fell off and hit something downstairs with a thump. She heard Mrs. Kidd cry out, "Oh my!" Jeremy yelled, "Hey!" Muttley barked. Desperate, Ramona bent forward over the joist to stop her fall and searched frantically with her feet to find something to stand on. There was nothing, only air. Above her, rain pattered on the roof. "Ramona, hang on," Daisy called out. "Jeremy, come quick." "I'm hanging." Ramona was terrified. The sharp edge of the joist was pressing into her waist and her legs were cold. She wondered how much longer she could hang on. What if there really were rats in the attic? Dust was everywhere. Ramona sneezed. Below, Muttley barked harder, as if he were warning off an intruder. "Hurry," she wailed. On the television, a referee blew a whistle, and a crowd roared. "They're coming," cried equally terrified Daisy, grabbing at the back of the pink dress. Thumping feet were heard on the stairs. In a moment, Jeremy pushed his sister aside and, standing on the boards, seized Ramona under the arms and tugged. "Dumb kids," was his comment. "Ow!" said Ramona. Jeremy tugged harder and managed to pull her out of the hole she had made. "Yow!" escaped from Ramona, even though she was grateful to be rescued. As she was pulled out of the hole, she had a glimpse below of the dining room table covered with rubble. "Oh, you poor child!" Mrs. Kidd was filled with sympathy, concern, and relief. Ramona was so glad to be standing on the hard floor with the remains of the pink dress heaped around her feet that she began to cry. Mrs. Kidd hugged her and murmured, "There, you're safe now. Everything is all right." "No, it isn't," wept Ramona. "I made a big hole in the floor, ceiling." "Whatever," said Jeremy, and left the room to clump down to the television set. "Thank you," sniffled Ramona, remembering her manners even though Jeremy had left. "You saved my life." She began to cry harder. She had broken the ceiling and could never come to the kids' house again, and she and Daisy couldn't be best friends, and she'd be left with Howie and messy old Willa Jean to play with, and... All right, so we are going to stop there today, okay? So, as we had talked about earlier in the beginning, right before I read the book, we are taking a look at that text, okay? And we are thinking about what points in the story was a decision made that caused another decision to be made, that it was like a ripple effect. So, what was the conflict in this chapter? You are right. The conflict was that Ramona fell through the floor. She fell through the floor, the ceiling. The chapter did not start out with conflict, right? The chapter started out super fun. She was at her friend's house. They were playing dress up. Everything was great. But then the author began to give you hints that the conflict was coming when she wrote that Ramona put on a long dress. And then they decide to go play a witch, be a witch, and they decide to go to the dungeon. And then the author describes that the flooring maybe wasn't super stable. And then Ramona trips on her dress. And so the conflict isn't necessarily very loud in the beginning of the chapter, but as you read and the author drops hints as to what is coming, you think to yourself, oh no, the attic isn't a safe place for the girls to play. This is surely going to end in a catastrophe. And it did. So what we are going to do is I want you to take a look again at the text that we read in chapter 5. And I want you to make a list of some things that happened, some events within that chapter that led to the major conflict. What things did Ramona, what decisions did Ramona make that then added a lot of complexity to the story, and it made a lot of things more complicated for Ramona. And along with that, I want you to challenge yourself to think of some ways that Ramona could have avoided the situation. What could she have done different or better so that the conflict did not arrive to the complications that it did in falling through the ceiling. And when we are done working on the activity, I would like you to share with your partner sitting next to you at your table, and just share some ideas with what you guys both came up with some key points in that text of what things, what clues did the author give you, and what events caused the conflict to become complicated. So that is what we will be working on today. Thanks.